today we are going to talk about our story around the world in 80 days. Last session we talked about chapter 1 and the main characters in the story. We said that Mr. Phileas Fogg is a very precise person, a very accurate person. He followed a certain routine in his life. He had no children, nor a wife. So he had only one servant, John Foster, the first servant. We said that John Foster lost his job because he had brought Mr. Fogg water for his bath that was only 84 degrees instead of 86 degrees, and this was a serious or a bad mistake that couldn't be permitted by his master, Mr. Fogg. And now Mr. Fogg had to find a new servant. He found a new servant whose name was Jean Passepartout. He was a French man, and he wanted to live a quiet life because he had tried many jobs, and now he wanted to live a quiet life. And he went to Mr. Phileas Fogg and worked with him as a servant. Okay, and we know that Mr. Phileas Fogg as usual to the Reform Club and sat with his friends, and they talked about the robbery, the bank robbery, and Mr. Stewart said that the bank robbers cannot escape because it's too difficult for them to escape from the country. But Mr. Phileas Fogg said to him that they can escape because the world is no longer a small city. So Mr. Phileas Fogg make a bet with Mr. Stewart, and he told him that he can go around the world in 80 days, but Mr. Stewart told him that the person need 3 months to go or travel around the world. So they make that bet, and the winner will pay the loser will pay $20,000 for the person who can achieve his challenge. So Mr. Fogg started his journey around the world in 80 days, and we said that he went home and told Jean Passepartout, the servant, that they will travel around the world in 80 days, and they will leave for Dover and France. Now we will deal with chapter 2. Let's see what happened next in the story. Listen please. Chapter 2, Detective Fix.
Chapter 2, Detective Fix. At Dover, Fogg and Passepartout got on a ship to Calais in France. They travelled across the English Channel and took another train to Paris. From Paris, they moved to Italy, also by train. 7 days later, they arrived in Port Said on board the Mongolia, which sailed through the Suez Canal. At Suez, Mr. Fix was waiting. Mr. Fix was a police detective who worked for Scotland Yard. He was one of many detectives sent out to catch the bank robber who had stolen the money from the Bank of England. The Mongolia was going to stop for a short time in Suez before it continued its journey towards Bombay. Mr. Fix watched the passengers who came off the ship closely. When Mr. Fogg entered the consul's office to sign his passport as proof for his friends that he had stopped in Suez. Mr. Fix saw him. A tall, handsome English gentleman, thought Fix. Perhaps he is the thief I'm looking for. I must get some more information about him. A few minutes later, Fix found Passepartout alone. He went to speak to him. Are you travelling to Bombay?
So now Mr. Fogg at Dover and France with Passepartout with him. They got on the ship to Calais in France and they traveled across the English Channel to another train to Paris. So they moved to Italy also by train. At this time they use only trains and ships and carriages, okay, or carts that pulled with horses. There were no cars and no planes at this time, so it's too difficult for people to go around the world in 80 days for them, so they made that bet. So now they will take 7 days to arrive in Port Said on board. On board means on the ship that is called the Mongolia, which sailed through the Suez Canal. So this will be their journey from Dover to Paris and to Suez Canal on the board of Mongolia, the name of the ship. At Suez, Mr. Fix. Mr. Fix, who is Mr. Fix? He is a detective. Mr. Fix was a policeman, a detective who worked for Scotland Yard. He was one of many detectives that sent out to catch the bank robbers, the thieves that rob or stole the bank. Okay. Then the Mongolia, the ship, was going to stop for a short time in Suez before it continued its journey towards Bombay. Mr. Fix watched passengers who came off the ship closely, very near. When Mr. Fogg entered the consul's office to sign his passport, to take the sign on his passport, the proof that his friends that he had stopped in Suez, Mr. Fix saw him, and Mr. Fix said, "A tall, handsome English gentleman." So he saw that Mr. Phileas Fogg is the thief, the bank robber, the person who robbed the bank or stole the money from the bank. Perhaps he is the thief I'm looking for. He thought in himself that Mr. Fogg is the thief. I must get some more information about him. So he wanted to know information about Mr. Phileas Fogg. After minutes, Passepartout was alone, and now Mr. Fix, Detective Fix, went to talk with Passepartout, the servant, to know many information about Mr. Phileas Fogg. Let's see what happened next.
Yes, said Passepartout. So, this is Suez? Yes, answered Fix. And we are in Egypt. Yes, we are. In Africa. That's right. I would have loved to stay here for some time to see Egypt. But we are in such a hurry. We don't have any time to stop and visit places. So you're in a hurry? Asked Fix. I am not. Actually, it is my master who is in a hurry. I thought I was going to live a quiet life with him in London. But then Mr. Fogg came home suddenly to tell me that we are leaving to Paris and then to Italy. We didn't even have time to pack. I can show you a place where you can buy anything you need, offered Fix. You are very kind, sir, but I must not be late for the ship. You still have a lot of time. It's only 12 o'clock.
Okay, now Mr. Detective Fix asked Passepartout about his journey. They said that they are in Egypt, in Suez, in Egypt, in Africa, and he loved to stay and go around Egypt and see things in it. But he said that they are very quick, they are in a hurry, they don't have any time to stop to visit places because his master, Mr. Phileas Fogg, was in a hurry. He wanted to go around the world quickly and he didn't pack his bag or his clothes. So Mr. Detective Fix told him that there are places to buy things or clothes from it, and Passepartout think that Mr. Fix is a very kind man, and he told him that he is a very kind man, and he said you still have a lot of time. It's only 12 o'clock. This is Detective Fix and this is Passepartout. They are in Suez at the board of Mongolia. This is the ship. It's called Mongolia.
Passepartout pulled out his watch. 12 o'clock? It is only 10. Ah, your watch is wrong, said Fix. Wrong? Oh, no, my watch. This watch, it is never wrong. You just need to put it right for the Swiss time. It is still telling London time. My watch isn't wrong. I don't need to put it right, said Passepartout, looking proudly at his watch. So where is your master going? Asked Fix. Around the world. Around the world? Cried Fix in surprise. Yes, he says it is a bet with a friend. We will travel around the world in 80 days. So strange. And has your master got a lot of money? Oh, yes, he has. He has got thousands of pounds, all in new banknotes. Fix took Passepartout to a clothes shop and left him there to buy some shirts and shoes. The detective went directly to the post office. He sent a telegram to London. He told the people in Scotland Yard that the gentleman thief they were all looking for was travelling to India on board the Mongolia. He asked them to send him a warrant to arrest him in Bombay.
So it was 12 o'clock at this time, and Fix said, "Your watch is wrong." Wrong, said Passepartout. He said proudly that his watch it was not wrong. That because that was his grandfather's watch, and he said proudly with respect for himself. So now it was the time in Egypt. Okay, so it's different from that of England. Okay, so Mr. Fix asked Passepartout, where is your master? He said that he will go around the world in 80 days because he made a bet with his friend Mr. Stewart, and he will travel around the world in 80 days. So he asked him that his master has a lot of money. He said yes, he had a lot of money, all in thousands of money of pounds, that all in new banknote. Passepartout said to Mr. or Detective Fix that his master, Mr. Phileas Fogg, has thousands of money with him, or pounds with him. And Mr. Fix show a clothes shop for Passepartout and left him to buy some shirts and shoes. The detective went directly to the post office to send a telegram to London. he told people in Scotland Yard that the gentleman thief. He thought that Mr. Phileas Fogg is a thief who robbed the bank, and that we are looking for traveling to India on board of Mongolia's ship. He asked them to send him a warrant. A warrant is a paper from a judge which allows him to catch or to arrest Mr. Phileas Fogg. So he wants a warrant from the Scotland Yard to arrest Mr. Phileas Fogg in Bombay.
A couple of days after the Mongolia had sailed, Passepartout met Fix on the ship. "Ah, you are the kind gentleman who helped me in Swiss," said Passepartout with a smile. "Yes, and you are the servant of the Englishman who is travelling around the world," answered Fix. "Where are you travelling?" asked Passepartout. "To Bombay, just like you." "That's great. Is India an interesting place?" "Yeah, sure. Very interesting." Mr. Fix and Passepartout met many times on the ship. Fix was so interested in asking about Mr. Fogg, and Passepartout always answered him. He thought Mr. Fix was a kind and friendly gentleman.
After 2 days, the Mongolia had sailed, the ship had sailed, and Passepartout met Mr. Fix on the ship, and he told him, he asked him that he was the kind man who helped him in Suez, and he told him about the clothes shop, and now Mr. Fix said that you are the servant of the English gentleman who is Mr. Fogg. And they are traveling around the world. Passepartout asked Detective Fix, "Where are you traveling?" He said, "To Bombay, like you," and it was great. He asked him that if India is a nice or an interesting place. He said that sure, it's very interesting, and they met many times on the board of Mongolia. And Passepartout said that Mr. Fix or Detective Fix is a kind man. He always asked him about his master, about Detective Fix, about Mr. Fogg, and he was interested to ask him about him because he wanted to know more information about Mr. Fogg, and Passepartout always answered him. Let's answer some questions on this chapter. Who is Mr. Fix? He was a police detective who worked for Scotland Yard. He was one of many detectives sent out to catch the bank robber who had stolen the money from the Bank of England. Number 2, Fix sent a telegram to London. Discuss. Fix sent a telegram to London to tell the people in Scotland Yard that the gentleman thief, Mr. Phileas Fogg, they were looking for was traveling to India. He asked them to send him a warrant to arrest him in Bombay. Comment. A tall, handsome English gentleman. Who said these words to whom and when? Detective Fix said these words to himself when he saw Fogg at Suez to sign his passport. He thought that Fogg was the thief he was looking for. Number 2, comment. He has got thousands of pounds, all in new banknote. Who said these words? These words were said by Passepartout to Detective Fix when they were at Suez on board of Mongolia. Fix asked Passepartout if his master had got a lot of money. So this is our chapter for today. See you soon in chapter 3. Thank you.